Hello, welcome to Bill and Amy's Bogus Hangout. I'm going to have our guests introduce themselves. Zara, will you start, please?
Hi, I'm Sarah Altier, and I write for the web, and I'm totally bogus.
Thomas.
Thomas, the
Next.
co-founder of Blueprint Marketing and totally bogus.
Doc.
Dr. Sheldon's intrinsic value, likewise. Bogus.
Steve.
Steve Grinzer with Steve Driven Media, and I'm only partially bogus today.
But Mr. T.
Geez, yeah, I'm here.
But aren't you
I ain't
fabulous?
And I'm Bill Slofsky of SEO by the Sea, and I'm the director of SEO research for Go Fish Digital, and I'm only partially bogus today. So I got some questions about this trust project. Somebody asked me in DM on Twitter, what is, does Google use the trust project? And my answer was, what's the trust project?
That would be my
Terry
question.
I haven't heard of it.
Terry put together some news for today, and one of them is a story on the trust project. And it's whether or not Google uses the trust project as a ranking signal.
Right.
I didn't check that article out yet. Is that by any chance written by Rand Fish?
It was written
Lily
by,
Ray, actually.
written-
It was a tweet from Lily Ray that
Yeah, she's
was written about on SEO Roundtable.
Mhm.
And she seemed to think that the two had a lot of
Correlation.
same elements in them. Is that the way to describe it, Bill?
well, you get these people from Google coming out with these webmaster evaluation or quality rater guides where they talk about EAT scores, or they talk about EAT factors,
Yeah.
expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. But people ask them, as they will, because SEOs want to know, is there an EAT score? And the people from Google say, what are you talking about?
There is no such.
We have lots of little algorithms that added together come up with some type of EAT factor. But we don't have an EAT score. Why not? So I was telling Terry earlier today, I ran across a patent that was granted in 2014. It was filed in 2007. It's called ranking expertise. And it talks about giving scores for experts and scores for topics.
So if an expert writes about a topic, it'll get more gravity or more pull in Google, hypothetically. Then.
If the expert is called an expert on a certain subject by the company they work for, on the pages of their website, they're probably an expert in that topic. When Google Plus showed up later and it talked about looking at things like what the person wrote about or what their email says, where their email says they're from, and what their company says they do, that provides some sense of expertise.
LinkedIn and everything else that's posted on the web, probably.
If a person has an email address that says they work for IBM, they probably know something about computers.
Yep.
If they write articles about going scuba diving and write scuba tank equipment, they probably know something about scuba diving.
Right. So they were looking at the excerpts, trying to figure out what the topic in that excerpt was, Bill?
Right.
Okay, so when you first mentioned that now, the first thing I thought of, an excerpt is more likely to be more concise about the topic of the page that it's related to.
No, I said expert ranking.
Okay, I guess I should turn the volume up something. Expert. Okay, thank you.
Expert ranking, right. It was odd that it was from 2007 originally.
So they were looking at the whole document.
Right, because the Quality Raters guides didn't leak to the public until 2012, 2014.
Yeah. 15, I think. Yeah, something like that.
And they were intentionally never really intended to be seen by the public. They were meant for the raters. But it looks like they turned into positive publicity for Google.
Sort of
Get
like
all
when they
these
had the
people-
green bar.
The green bar was very informative.
Yeah, for a while. And then they started saying, oh, well, don't pay attention to the green bar. It doesn't really mean anything. It's like, but I can see the green bar. It must mean something.
When I go to New York Times, spelled nytimes.com, it's a 7. When I go to www.newyorktimes.com, it's a 9.
Mm-hmm.
More
So
links to
the PageRank toolbar must be working. It must show me that New York Times should redirect to the www version of their site.
Yeah, they're treating it as two canonical URLs. So.
It was being treated as two separate websites with
Right.
duplicate content.
Which
So
is
it
bad
didn't
on
have a 301 redirect, or just the
It didn't have the 301 redirect. It had links
Ooh.
to both versions.
Ouch.
It had more links to the www version than the non-www version.
That's
by a lot.
probably why they hired Marshall.
Though you could tell things like that from the toolbar, though.
Yeah. Also, if it was gray, you could tell some stuff about your site.
Yeah, I was about to say. Okay.
Yeah, if you've had a site out for 5 or 6 years and your toolbar was gray, it's telling you get a problem.
Guy just started over.
Either somehow you never earn links or all your links disappeared.
It never seemed to correlate when people had done disavows. I noticed that the toolbar at that point never, and this is later in time, but the toolbar didn't seem to make a difference. But at that point, I wasn't paying much attention to it, to be honest. I just remember.
We had Bob Massa show up as a guest. We interviewed him because he was selling links from pages that had different amounts of page rank.
Yep.
And you'd spend $700 for a PageRank 7, a link from a PageRank 7 page, and $900 for a link from a PageRank 9 page. And Google saw that and said, okay, now you've got a PageRank 2 page. And he could tell that because his link was more gray than green. his toolbar.
So it was catching the actual value of the link.
So he filed a motion for declarative judgment against Google to get his PageRank back. And the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court said PageRank is freedom of opinion. And if Google decides that you have a PageRank 2, you have a PageRank 2.
That went to the Supreme Court. Wow.
Yeah. There's a Bill of Rights in action.
Oh, Bill, in regards to the earlier topic, Google is part of that
Trust
Trust
Project.
Foundation as well.
They're the ones who started the Trust Foundation.
What is the Trust
Oh, are
Foundation?
they? Okay, I know that they were part of it.
It's a group of news organizations.
Yeah, which makes sense, eh? That they would be the ones looking to do something like that.
Most trusted sites on the web.
That was back before we had politicians who called news channels fake news when they didn't like the stories they wrote.
I doubt Breitbart would have been in the list.
I can tell you, I've watched some of those channels, and some of it is fake.
Well, some of the channels that the people were watching that they were calling real news was questionable. It was shady. It wasn't bogus. It wasn't even part bogus.
Wow.
It was completely bogus.
I've seen stuff that was just out and out false and presented as fact.
Like InfoWars, that type of good stuff.
Well, they've been sued a few times for doing that, so just to give you a hint.
But I think like New York Times, Wall Street Journal, those are documents of they're going to be documents of ledger. They're history. They're our history, which all the other news organizations basically there's like a hierarchy, I think, inside the by best newspaper or most factual newspaper, and then there's it makes sense to you because you think of all the things a journalist goes through, all the vetting, the fact checking. Unless you have that guy Glass who ripped off the New Republic, doing some stuff which they caught eventually, everything's good.
You had groups like Google launching Gmail on April Fool's Day, and everybody thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
And I think some people still think it's a joke.
So some of the businesses that lost their accounts do.
Yeah. Then you had the BBC running a story on spaghetti growing on trees because they want to show that even a legitimate news source could pull jokes on people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was one of them did an April Fool's joke of Tiffany's new color was bright yellow. It's our new branding. And I fell for it for like 3 seconds, and I was like, "Oh, it's April Fool." It was a terrible color, like banana yellow.
I miss that day.
I think, that's a good thing if they're still using. If you go by the Snowden factor, that's where he trusted, our secrets. I would say that's a good thing to go off of use journalists as a trust bar. There's not really a higher, not a more vetted source out there.
For a while, Google News was ranking stories on the basis of a source rank. When they first started Google News, they looked at all kinds of things related to the news source, like how many agencies they have, how many of those are international agencies.
If it came from the AP, that type of stuff.
They filed like 3 or 4 continuation patents where they removed most of the source rank stuff and started ranking news stories on the basis of how many entities were included in the story, how original was the story, how fresh was it. So they were ranking the stories rather than news source.
That's interesting. So,
Which I think is a legitimate thing to do, because you can have brand new news sources or really not well-known news sources write good articles.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can have old news sources write stinkers, things that aren't very good.
Yep. Yeah. And the bar to get into Google News has been raised quite a bit as well, which is, I think, a good thing.
But they're letting more things that are solely Google News get reported on by other things now.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to be a news source to have a top story.
Yeah, that is true. You don't have to have the fact checking, the whole system in place for journalism, and you could, yeah. So do you think that's what's leading to more and more poorly reported news or incorrect news?
Lazy reporters.
Lazy people being reported. When somebody says that politician couldn't run for dog catcher and get elected, And the politician says that's a fake news source.
I was a dog
That's-
catcher. Yeah. Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think more and more podcasts, things like that, are becoming not podcasts, more, yeah, you're exactly what you just said before. More single entity people are becoming news.
Almost every news organization probably has a podcast now.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I
and
know any of the sports channels that I watch have 5 or 6 or 7.
most filmmakers don't have multi-million-dollar studios.
No.
Most musicians don't have studios where they can broadcast and record multiple instruments simultaneously with different equipment. They run their own synthesizers on their own computers.
Yeah. No, it's amazing what it's given the gift to smaller people that would have never had a shot. Things like GarageBand and other similar
Studios
programs.
aren't built much anymore to have a whole band playing in it at once.
Do a part at a time.
They're small.
I think one of the more amazing things that happened on Hangouts when they were around, Google Hangouts, was the music productions that they did, because they brought live music and they brought all the equipment to make the sound not excellent, but certainly good on those Hangout broadcasts. And I thought that was really extraordinary.
The group Playing for Change.
Yeah, well, they
Gets
do
musicians from around the
everything
world.
internationally. They're incredible.
They're recording videos with snippets from musicians from different countries all the time.
Right. And one of the things that everybody seems to enjoy it, because I notice in the Playing for Change videos how many of the people are smiling, even though they're continents apart.
Yeah, no, that is incredible. I mean, what you're talking about, adding sound, I mean, if you listen to, I don't know, Howard Stern or Imus or whoever it is, it really does add something when somebody puts in some weird noise after someone speaks. There's some sort of a interesting, I don't want to say magic to it, but it makes the show pop a little bit more.
Well, it's nice listening to podcasts from people who 10 years ago wouldn't have had a channel to speak on.
No platform whatsoever, yeah.
No platform.
Sitting around with their buddies.
Right. It was like king of the hill, king of the road.
Yeah.
King of the hill.
Yep.
And there's a lot of YouTubers out there putting out really great news work. They've built their own teams and they do their own news shows and are very aggressive about being as apolitical and researched as possible, better than many major news corporations these days.
Vice started on YouTube and went to HBO and now is owned by Showtime. I think they did a great job.
My sister watches a show out of California. I mean, it has lots of people who remark and comment and add to the stories, but it's one person collecting most of the information and drawing charts and showing how things are changing. He did a lot of stuff on COVID.
Yeah, I've seen people take some of the major news publications or universities' data and then modify it slightly for the doctors taking their own opinions on what's happening or their own research on COVID and changing it just slightly based on their data, which is, they're not trying to manipulate people. They're just trying to add to the information.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important to have happen.
I think the world of blogging sort of showed you could have a lot of people writing about the same topic. If they bring their own opinion in, their own view, they're adding value. They're
Yep.
telling people something new.
Yeah. Especially, yeah. I think people thought blogging, the best way to blog was to copy other people, and that's what made people with the unique voice so unique. Is people just would go after the same, almost the exact same thing.
So one of the articles I read when I first started blogging was called 10 Tips on Writing a Living Web. And number 6 was make good frenemies. So it said, take something somebody else has written and disagree with them.
Yeah,
Explain
controversy.
why, and contact them and link to them and see how they think, what they think about your take on what they wrote.
Get a debate going. That's, yeah.
People like to stop and watch car wrecks.
Yep.
We did that a lot when I had some better paying clients, where we would take big news stories and come up with a contrarian viewpoint that was valid, and then reach out to the journalist or whatever and say, well, that's not what we're seeing here, and provide them examples of what's going on with the client, and then that would get them national published in national newspapers or on TV or whatever, and worked a lot better than just using help a reporter out.
One of the best legal blogs I saw was one called How Appealing. And the guy would go through newspapers like Wall Street Journal, New York Times, whatever, find stories about court cases that were on appeal, and explain what was happening in those cases in English. Leave the legalese behind. And that was back when we had a toolbar. When we had a PageRank toolbar, he had a PageRank 8 within 3 or 4 months.
Wow. Just taking the jargon out and explaining it plainly.
He was attracting a lot of attorneys who wanted to find out about those cases. And he was taking the top stories he could find from popular news sources, newspapers, and writing about the cases and what was going on in them in plain language. Nobody was throwing writs of certiorari around or other legal terms that people need dictionaries to figure out what's going on with.
Erroneous. No.
A lot of legal language in English comes from the original England, which was using French to describe legal terms. So a lot of legal terms are actually French in nature.
Oh, that's interesting. Why French?
Because people writing about those cases would write about them in French.
That makes sense.
It makes absolutely no sense, but they did it.
Well, if it was documented, then they didn't understand what it was, then they kind of figured it out from the context.
Yeah.
Then it became.
My understanding too is that the court system that we have in the U.S., which was born in the U.K., actually originated in France. France was the first nation that actually had a court system where citizens could appear and bring cases. And that's why a lot of the legalese that we use today actually does originate in French.
That makes sense.
It's Latin based, but so is French for that matter.
Every contract has force majeure in it, and I know that's French.
Mhm.
I mean, it makes complete sense now. Yeah, that if
Yeah. Huh? Well, the bastard or the conqueror, either way. French to England.
Yeah, I mean, during the revolution, we sure didn't pay France back for their help, but during their revolution, we didn't come to their aid, but they definitely were very, I don't want to say under the king of free society, but they were a liberated society afterwards. We wanted liberty.
So another of those news stories, Terry, that you gave us was about people also ask questions appearing more.
Yeah, it's up 2%.
It seems like it goes on forever now. If you click it a few times, you can get into some weird.
Oh yeah, it expands too.
So are those intended to keep people on pages longer?
You know, we
Excuse me?
a few weeks
Are
ago-
those intended to keep people on pages longer?
On Google longer, yeah.
Till it hits the right slot machine.
You know,
Well,
I mean,
played
there's an
around with that.
infinite loop of people also ask questions.
Yeah,
It is
definitely.
Yeah.
And they're growing that. I was thinking that an SEO strategy would be to look at the current questions and figure out what they can add to it.
So you referred to question graph.
That's what I call it. I
That's
don't
what
know.
he
if that-
calls
The second related questions patent, they changed the claims and they added the phrase question graph in the
Oh, they did?
claims.
Oh.
They did.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that would fly with you, so I said it's just that's my thing. That's what I thought.
So they're getting questions from queries, and they're looking at query sessions. So
Right.
questions that are similar to each other, they're asked in the same session, or ones that show up and the people also ask questions. And they've developed this big question graph where all these questions that are related to each other are near each other,
Yeah,
and they
I
use
kind
search
of-
results.
I was thinking that the new question hub that Google announced a while back would probably get SEOs using that to generate more questions, which would go into the graph and keep expanding it.
Well, if it's a graph, they probably keep related entities close to each other.
Right.
Yeah, because some of them don't make a lot of sense. Like once you get 3 or 4 in, it doesn't have much to do with the actual topic, but it's still using the main keyword. So,
But if you look, those are associated to the query before.
in some way, yeah,
Maybe not.
You're
the
right, you're right,
original,
you're right.
But they're
Yep.
related to the
Yes.
query before.
You're
So
exactly
it's
right.
like a nesting. of,
Yep.
We talked about
Right.
those people also ask, that infinite loop here a few weeks ago, and afterwards I went playing around with it, and I put in a query, and I went through a total of 99 clicks before I stopped. Literally. No, seriously, I went through 99, and like Terry is saying, it slowly deviates from the original query, but it's
Right.
always got some high relevance to the immediately previous query. But it was kind of funny, you're looking for a chicken cacciatore recipe, and now all of a sudden you're talking about pinning for basil in your garden. 99 in. I mean, it really got out there.
It's like a paper clip scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Go to one house, sell a paper clip and trade a paper clip and get something else and sell it to the next house for something else. And after a
Yeah.
while, you never know quite what you're going to get.
the
So
game of telephone.
they are related to each other, and the original query that you perform might have one entity in it, and the other related questions have other entities, and they
that are
change.
associated to the original entity.
Yeah,
Well,
there's always a line.
With different weighting. Yeah.
There might be either a similar entity or a similar query template that connects the two.
It's like the old game we used to play when people would talk about page relevance between pages, and it's like, okay, how can I make this page relevant to that page in less than 2 steps? And just used to mess with people endlessly about stuff like that, because you're trying to guess the intent, and based on what I see with Google suggested keywords in Google Ads for clients, they don't have a clue.
I was about to bring that up as AdWords keyword. Yeah, they're just going off of similes.
I've lost track of how many times, like, I'll get a client and they're like, well, Google suggested that we add these 180 keywords to our Google Ads account. So I just said yes. And it's like, oh my God.
The budget just went up by 20 grand.
Yeah, their budget went to zero.
I had some clients who want to do their own keyword research.
Yeah.
And the sad thing was they used the broad match instead of the exact match.
Oh man. You got like iPhone after the 6th word and everything.
It's like you can tell by looking at them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
These aren't very closely related to what you're writing about, what you're selling.
It's like Tesla, iPhone, anything that's huge right now. And you're like, what does that have to do with whatever you're selling? Widgets? Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, but those get the most traffic, so I included those.
I take them. I
It's
sell
like
TVs, but they want microwaves.
You lose a quarter on a dark street, and you go searching underneath the street lamp to find the quarter, not where you dropped it.
You go across the street.
There's more light over here. Yeah, well,
Right.
I mean, one of my clients does a certification program in their industry. And oh my God, trying to convince Google that we're looking for people who want to be certified rather than people who are looking for people who are certified is
That one.
staggering challenge.
That one.
I was doing something similar, trying to pick some information, and Google kept giving me totally irrelevant stuff to what I was looking for. And no matter, I basically just gave up trying to use anything associated to that query.
Either you're looking for a professional or you're going hunting for somebody with a straitjacket.
I had a very, very similar thing happen with a company that
Are you
does
certified?
test.
Are you certifiable?
Oh,
No, not certifiable, but bogus, right?
It's
Yeah,
easy.
after I've had that happen too. When you look for the keywords and it'll start out with keywords that are possibly relevant, and then something happens, and it's like I don't know where those suggestions come from.
Yeah.
it's like the algo drugs kick in.
People on Twitter are reporting. People on Twitter reporting that authors' names for some stories were being created by Google because they looked fake, they looked bogus.
Wow.
They were taking them out of the headings. However, Lily again was the one who wrote about that. And she said that the author's name was not in a place that you would normally find it, which would, Google looks for those things. Like when it goes into a blog, how many blogs do you see that don't have the author's name at the top right under the heading?
Or at the footer.
It's usually in a byline. And,
Right.
and they call it byline because it usually starts with the word by.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So they were just saying these names are improbable. Like, that's amazing that they wouldn't just Google the name.
However,
People do use fake names for blog stories.
I've heard Webmaster T isn't someone's real name, but I don't know that to be true. No.
that guy is bogus.
Yeah.
And I don't think his first name is Fabulous.
Right.
It's Web, right?
And only find him if you use fabulous webmaster T.
Yeah, we only know fabulous webmaster. I think if they had have had schema on the page, it probably would have helped a lot.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And one thing that in looking at some schema, the requirements by Google, I was surprised to see that on anything other than news, to not include the author and the publisher and all that stuff is cool. It's okay.
Really?
But I would include it.
Yeah.
I mean, the author of an article. Why would you
Pardon
not
me,
include
Bill?
the author of an article? Why wouldn't you include that?
I don't know, but Google isn't making it a requirement for a non-AMP page is not required for.
That changes the definition of AMP. AMP is accelerated mobile pages. It's not. This is a news story.
Right. I was wrong. When I said news, what I meant is AMP, because there was a lot of stuff about AMP and news, and I just got mixed up for a second.
I'm
AMP.
just. I expect Google to be making stuff up about AMP that's not necessarily true.
I believe that. Yeah.
Well, I would just suggest that you use the author and publisher, even though it's not required. And in the recommendations, it says you if you're using both AMP and regular desktop pages, that you should use the full schema, the AMP schema on the page.
That makes sense. Yeah, the AMP page should be marked up in AMP schema and the regular page in regular schema.
But the other interesting thing is in the schema, they leave the description is not a required field.
I find so many people use the entire content of the page as the description. It makes me crazy.
There's no need to republish the entire contents of the page
No.
in schema.
But they don't require schema descriptions, because then if they alter the description, they're saying they're not using schema then, are they? So I think they left it out so they could do what they wanted with this.
There's some schema written up where it sort of suggests that you put the entire contents of the page in one field.
Speakable schema.
I've seen people do it.
And I've seen a lot of it for some reason. I've seen it on a lot of
All in
sites.
one put a whole article in a meta description once on me. Instead of you, because I had no excerpts on the blog. I think it said, and it's using the excerpt as a description.
My blog is terrible. I'll be the first to admit it. It's horrific. And if I ask Google, hey Google, about me, it tells me exactly what I wrote on my blog. I could write I have wings and I fly. It would tell me that. Maybe not that.
I saw a blog from an SEO that was like that. I have wings and I can fly.
Really?
Yeah.
Mine doesn't say that, but it's.
Well, his did. But
yeah, no, there's some SEOs I've met. Wow, yeah, they think they can fly, or save they're being Spider-Man or Superman. Well, they're not.
Or at least walk on water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
He sent
exactly.
it from the heavens to save us all.
I watched one person at the end of a conference go, "I'm so glad I went last to correct everyone." That's how they. I was like, "Oh, wow, that is wrong." But they basically said some pretty generic stuff, so played it safe.
that reminds me of some forums.
Oh yeah, when people swoop in, they're like, I'm here now.
I'm here to save the day.
Yeah.
Right.
You're allowed to share this thread now that
Yeah,
I've written to it.
You got a Mighty Mouse theme song coming up in the background. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a guy in Moz Q&A actually try to post the reply on his own blog to get links. He's like, no, I'm not going to write it here, but if you want the real info, it's here. And it was all gibberish. It made no sense. But like, he gave the link to it, and then they were trying to decide whether to throw him out or not. You know, like he kind of tried, but he got it all wrong. It was amazing. Like, then you got people just flooding the thing with links.
Most of the groups I've been in have a rule against masturbation.
I have to say, I do like, I don't like everything about Moz, but I like their Q&A just because I've gotten up to like the top 10, so I'm sticking with it. But they're getting rid of it, more of it every day.
So some of the Facebook groups are including lines on it about things like my page isn't ranking because the Google dance affected it. And people responding to that saying the Google dance stopped in the 20th century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the other symptoms that you're saying? People with like 2-sentence questions about something like my site's not ranking. Just
Yeah.
It's like they have to understand they're going to be asked more information. But,
And then they don't want to share the URL because they're afraid people will look at it. It's like, but you just
they put it in Bitly. They always put it in Bitly.
If I include the URL, it'll show on Google, and people will laugh that they saw me ask this question.
Yeah, it's amazing. Or they'll remember when they'll send it to you privately. It's insane. I mean, to ask a question is normal. People should be able to ask questions without being embarrassed.
So why won't my site rank for its own name? I'm not going to tell you what the URL is.
My boss has given me 2 weeks to get us to #1. Like, well, you're about to lose your job.
I've seen one of those with you want to buy these links for X amount at the bottom, and I'm like, wow, okay, you're selling me links and you're asking these questions. Like, I should buy these links, you know?
So I've tried press release marketing. I've tried article marketing. Nothing's working. I don't understand.
My keyword density is just right.
I went and bought a bunch of Web 2.0 profiles. I like those. Those are nice.
The last time somebody told me about having gotten Web 2.0 links, I asked, "What is that?"
Yeah.
MySpace.
I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Neither do they.
Mid-90s fad, I think the last
I do SEO. I don't sell snake oil. What did you buy?
There was a guy.
Hysterical with all these people buying profile links. It's like, you understand that all of these profiles are generally no followed or no indexed or whatever because of people like, you know, yes, my forum has 4 million registered users and like 17 of them are active.
So can you tell me, Steve, where do I find do follow links?
Do follow.
You know, I've always wondered about that. Whenever somebody asks about whether they should get no follow or do follow, it's like, just get the damn link. You know? Well, how do I know if it's a good link? Will it send you traffic? Will it send you customers? If the answer is yes, then it's a good link. If the answer is no, then it's not a good link. You follow those simple rules, everything else solves itself.
Yep.
One of the best links I got was on a Polish classified site.
Really?
I published the link. It brought traffic. It brought repeat customers. It brought people who were from Eastern Europe who were shipping cargo ships to South America 7-8 times a week.
Wow.
Every ship they would reincorporate the ship. They would spend money for an incorporation.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Why would they do that?
because that's the way people do things with ships. They fly different flags. They
Oh,
hire
just the taxes.
different crews. They incorporate in different countries, so they follow different laws.
Yep. That's why most big ships are in Georgia if it's a private large vessel. I think it's Georgia, or I'll figure out what country. They all fly the same flag if they're like a 400
They
footer
fly
or something.
the Panamanian flag.
Yeah,
They incorporate
Panama.
in Delaware, Bahamas.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good parallel because Panama is attractive for flagging a vessel for the same reason that Delaware is attractive for forming a corporation. Okay, Panama was the first country to negotiate docket fees with other nations, and they negotiated it by offering very favorable conditions to other nations. Even though very damn few nations will ever dock in Panama, but they may dock in, but they will dock in some nation that has they're under agreement with Panama. So with a Panamanian flag, landing in France is a lot more affordable on a daily basis, and their cargo fee and everything else, and in some instances even their import-export duties are favorable. So Panama was smart like a fox on that deal. Nobody ever docked in Panama.
They have reciprocity agreements.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why it's so attractive to have a Panamanian flag on your vessel. At least for a shipper.
you're saving a ton of money.
But who the hell ever ties up in Panama?
Right. And where would they?
Something has to get stuck in the Panama Canal for that to happen. No.
Yeah, so it was fun finding out about these companies that were being incorporated by these people from the Polish classified site, because one day they were shipping beans to South America. One day they were shipping meat to South America. They were changing the cargoes every journey.
It's commodities. The shipping industry is really, really interesting. I didn't know about that part of it though, the reincorporation. That makes sense though if it saves them money.
Yeah. So in places like Delaware, they don't have juries for chancery court rulings. So the courts that are deciding on corporate matters for Delaware handwrite the opinions, and they explain the law in detail. Because the judges, the chancellors, are the finders of fact. So they have to explain to people living in other places why they ruled the way they ruled.
Set a precedent.
Yeah. So you had written materials that you could plan around, which is really helpful if you weren't located in a place, but you were incorporated there.
I mean, Delaware's, I think everyone's incorporated in Delaware. I mean, it's the smallest state, and it's done. It did exactly the right thing.
It's half the size of Houston.
Yep, I've driven through it like quite a few times, and
Yeah.
I was actually in Newport just last month, but yeah, they really did the right thing by allowing tax haven for all Fortune 500s or any corporation really, even smaller.
Right. They passed a corporate law in 1909 that made it very affordable. They were thinking ahead.
Yeah. It's such a small state, it makes sense. They need all the infrastructure, and it's a wise move.
And there's no sales tax,
Yep.
which meant people would travel to the shopping mall, the center of the state, the center of the topmost county, and shop there, even if they were coming from Maryland or Pennsylvania or New Jersey.
It's just like New Hampshire here. We see the malls full of Massachusetts from main plates. They don't want to pay. They're all 5 minutes away. Why pay taxes?
Yeah.
The only time it gets tricky is on larger items. Then they have methods of checking. Not very good ones, but they have like car registration and things like that. But yeah, it's. I got out of a ticket because my license plate said "Live Free or Die" on it, which is the New Hampshire state motto. The cop thought it was so funny, thought I somehow got it on there myself. I was like, no, that's actually the state motto. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to give you a ticket. So okay, thanks.
Is it Patrick Henry?
Who's I don't know. I think so. It sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my favorite state motto. I think it's definitely the best one. I think out of all of them. It's got some grit to it.
It's like the flag of the snake with the "Don't tread on me."
Exactly. Yeah. It's got all the 13 colonies, and yeah, we had some interesting flags in the beginning. The tree going up, the pine tree with the leaves going upwards, and
Someone running a kitchen out of a restaurant out of their kitchen, or what?
Sound like it.
Yeah. Now I know what Steve was asking.
So I was going to fire up the Hobart and make some bread.
did it go away? Was it me?
I
or
think
was it-
someone's cooking dinner or something in the back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can smell that. It's good.
It must be here. It's definitely not here.
Oh, I just muted my mic for about 10 seconds to see if it was me. So if it went away, I don't know.
Somebody eating out of a cereal bowl.
That about something.
That is happening. Yeah, right now. I can see that. That is occurring. So that's me. I can turn down my mic sensitivity. Wow, I never thought it would pick that up quite as easily. Okay. I just turned the mic volume down. Sorry about that.
Now, mics are really good at picking up those kinds of noises.
They are. Yeah, any
I
metal.
close the door behind you next time.
I will.
I close the door behind me for different reasons.
and lock it from the inside.
No.
What do you guys think of those new Mac M1 processors?
How much
If it's
RAM?
Mac, I don't even know that exists.
How much RAM do they allow?
I think up to 32, maybe 64. I think you can order. I know you can customize it, but I know it comes with 16 by default.
So I've got Windows-based computers, and they started out as earlier models. My desktop was a Windows 7, and it moved up to Windows 10. My laptop was a Windows 8, and it moved up to Windows 10. And they were 64-bit, which meant they could use more RAM. Once they were Windows 10, they could use as much RAM as you installed.
Yeah,
If they were 32-bit, they were limited.
3.5 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've got like 24 RAM on my desktop, and I just boosted my laptop from 8 gigabytes to 16.
Oh, yeah. Whenever I spec out a computer, when they ask how much RAM I want, I say how much you got.
Yeah. How much can I put?
I
Give me
spec'd out
all the RAM.
a Mac
All
Pro
of it.
though, and I wanted hard drive space, and for the hard drives to be 4 terabytes was roughly $3,000 more than if I got it from OWC, Other World Computing, or MacSales.com, and they were faster drives at MacSales.com. So some of them are charging a little too much.
OEP, original equipment processor.
Yep. Yeah.
So they used to have computer shows at local universities near where I lived, and they would sell computer parts. You would go, you'd buy parts and put together computers.
All right.
And I remember when you're buying RAM, they lowered the price of RAM to $1 per megabyte, which was like incredibly cheap at the time.
Mhm.
You end up buying a lot of RAM.
I remember when RAM got up to $94 a meg.
Yeah, I remember my brother and I looking at a.
Outrageous.
Oh no, that was hard drives, SCSI hard drives.
Hard drives have gotten a little bit more expensive for sometimes no reason. Like Intel makes an Optima hard drive now for $2,000 that has the same specs as a Samsung the 350. I don't know why. I guess they call it an enterprise drive. But
I saw a Western Digital 2 terabyte SSD the other day for $99.
Yeah.
it's a good deal. Was it NVMe?
I mean, I would almost jump all over that if I had room for more, but I've already got 2.5 terabytes here that I don't use. You know.
Not trying to suck down the whole internet.
Yeah, I just,
Like,
I'd much rather invest in 6 more monitors. You know?
yeah. Was it Friday or Saturday? We had a really big storm roll through here that took out the power, and my wife's in there shutting down her computer, and she didn't quite make it before the UPS cut out because she leaves so much open. I mean, it's ridiculous how much she leaves open, but that's another issue. So power came back on like 6 hours later. She pushed the button on the front of her computer and nothing happened.
Oh no.
And it's like, okay, well, we'll take a look at it. I used to do tech work, no big deal. And I'm starting to pull stuff out from behind her desk, and it's like, oh, look, here's your external hard drive. And it was the USB cord was plugged into her computer, but the power cord for the external hard drive was not plugged in. It's like, so when was the last time you did a backup? And she goes, oh, I don't remember. It's like, well, when this isn't plugged in, the backups don't work. And so I pull her computer out, and fortunately, I have some friends that are relatively deep at Dell, and I called one of them up, and he's like, "Yeah, give me the service tag on the back. I can log in through our stuff." And her machine's like 8 years old. He goes, "Yeah, if you'd called Dell support, they would have just told you to buy a new one." He goes, "But I've got some tech specs here. Try this." And he'd give me a list of things to do, including replacing the CMOS battery. Computer came right back up. It's like, cool.
Wow.
And if I had not known somebody at Dell, I'd be on the hook for another $1,000 computer for the cost of a battery.
I will say one thing about Apple. I bought a $3,000 MacBook Pro 17-inch and had something go wrong with it. And in 3 years later, after I bought AppleCare with it, the $200 thing, which I thought I'd never use, I complained about something 3 times. And long story short, the third time they go, bring it to the store and we'll get you a new one. I go, well, they don't make the 17-inch anymore with this slot that I want. He goes, just pick the best one that we've got. You got that one. We'll give you the one with all the, max out the RAM and all that stuff. And I go, really? You're going to do it? He goes, well, I can't give you a smaller or same size screen, so I got to do something. Went to the store, said my name, some number, picked it up. Guy was just like, here you go. And I got a $5,000 computer just handed to me. It was weird. And since then, I've complained to AppleCare, and they've never done that again. But I think I was just dumb luck. But they will do some pretty amazing things. Though I wish their computers were actually upgradable now, without breaking the warranty.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down to who you get at the Apple store.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
It really does matter.
That really matters at the Apple Store.
The manager's a nice guy and he's feeling
I won't
generous.
even walk by the store.
I honestly think
You
Apple's
find yourself
a
in the
great
same
computer.
alley you trot, hey?
I just walk by and laugh at the people lining up to buy the stuff.
A Mac Mini is a very powerful computer for the cost. I think it's like $400 now. You can get a little desktop. I mean, I don't know. I'm biased, but you know, the operating system is great. I guess that's how they hook you in. But
I'm impressed by
Well, it's like
how Apple devices sync together.
yeah, that's also awesome. If you have an iPhone, a Mac, and then your car has Apple Play in it,
But it should be. It's 4 times as expensive. You get what you pay for.
Well, the other thing is I really like about Apple when it comes to the phone. I can't tell you how many times this thing has gone sailing across the room, bounced off the floor,
Yeah.
and they build a phone that will take a drop kick. I tell you, compared to the others that I've seen, they really take a beating.
I had this one with no case on hit a metal lamp and make the most god awful noise. I was sure it was smashed. Fine.
Broke the lamp.
Yeah. I've kicked them into pools before. I found an iPhone underneath a piece of furniture, holding it up to make it level. My dad stuffed it under there. An actual
Jesus
phone.
Christ.
That's what I said. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh." He doesn't have an appreciation for technology. I was like, ugh. But yeah, I think it's still there actually. So I tried to remove it. He got mad.
Wow.
But regardless, I do think Apple makes a decent product, and their M2 chip is coming out soon. So their new architecture or ARM architecture should be pretty interesting because Windows is being made so it can work with it as well now. So I think hopefully we'll see more than just AMD, Intel, Apple. Maybe there'll be like 20 suppliers. That'd be cool. Has anyone ever worked on building SEO software like crawlers that are powered by hosted crawlers or anything like that?
Not me.
How about reverse proxies and things like that? Well, I have one question. How does everyone feel about subfolders or subdomains?
Depends.
Same thing.
Well, not always though, right? Like, the internal linking is more likely to happen on a subfolder. In my opinion.
I think there are relatively few instances in which subdomain is going to be preferable over folders. 9 times out of 10, I think folders is a better way to go. I can imagine some circumstances that the subdomain would be better, but I don't play in those.
Subdomains have historically always required more maintenance, more work.
Yep.
More links, more management.
Yep.
So
It's going to cost you more for server and whatnot.
How busy you want to be.
Yeah.
Remember, there's overhead on a server for each domain as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, but
Including
a lot of hosts these days give you even up to unlimited add-on domains. So, and most of the hosts that I've used in the last decade or so are offering you like 2 to 5 included subdomains, if not unlimited. Which I don't understand how in the world they can do that. Some of the folks that are out there building hundreds of sites for a network at a time, you think they would take a big bath on bandwidth. But
Are you familiar with the Microsoft paper damn spam and statistics?
can't say I am.
They were ranking sites based on how many hyphens were in the subdomain name. And
What?
spammers were buying subdomains and adding adding hyphenated names to the subdomains, so that they only had to pay for one domain at a time. They could spam a lot more based on how many subdomains they were building on that domain.
That makes sense.
Microsoft was doing a spam ranking filter on sites based on how many hyphens were in the subdomain names from Germany.
So hyphen density was the way to go then.
In Germany at that time, yes.
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I remember reading about that. Not don't buy a hyphen domain because it would be considered spam somewhere.
That sort of took the story and built on it.
Yeah.
That was never a search engine thing. Some SEOs thought that hyphens in domain names looked spammy. That's what
Right,
it was.
and sometimes people were putting so many hyphens in domain names they did look spammy.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. No one said everyone was brilliant.
The only time I can remember a search engine ever even talking about hyphens in terms of actually having an impact was a video that Matt did one time answering a question about hyphens versus underscore in a URL.
Right.
So which one is actually a separator and which one is actually a classifier. And
He's talking like subfolder or something like that. Not
no, in just in the URL. Even like say, even in your domain name, if you were going Thomas or Zickel versus Thomas Zickel versus just thomaszickel.com.
Can you buy Thomas underscore Zickel?
No, underscore is not a legal character in a domain, I believe.
Yeah,
Steve, you would know better.
It's probably in the subdomain or subfolder that I think did dashes or hyphens win?
Well, you can use underscores obviously in the URL, not in the domain, but in the URL.
Yeah.
But, Matt was thought, no, you're better off using hyphens because we don't see an underscore the same way that we see a hyphen.
Also,
that's
if
the only time I ever remember
link
that
has decoration, it hides the underscore. So someone looking at because in the old days we put addresses in the anchor tag,
Right.
and quite often those addresses would be hard to read because there was no way to remove the underscore.
There are
line underneath that.
There are a couple of patents that talk about text segmentation, but there are websites that had domain names that had nothing segmenting the words within them. And sometimes those got misinterpreted. Like there was a website dealing with computer equipment and technology that got a lot of people involved in unusual sexual practices would go to the site, and it was experts exchange, and it could be it could be segmented to expert sex change.
Well, I think the original example of that too was penisland.com.
Right.
Who's looking for penis land?
Or therapist.
Yeah, the massage therapist. Yep.
I saw a client got a bad SEO or pharma hack the other day, and gosh, that had some interesting words on it, but I hadn't seen one in a while. The fact that we have one of our oil pipelines and we're paying more for gas right now because of ransomware is unreal. I don't think the guy intentionally wanted the NSA after him, but
It's 15 different states.
yeah, I would drop that thing and let it release it if I were him. Just run. Because they're gonna, if they get him,
They already know who did it.
They do. They already found the guy.
Well, yeah, that Russian hacker group. They came out and admitted it. They're like, look, we don't care about politics. We want the money. Pay us.
I do, definitely money.
I'm surprised that we don't use some offensive cyber techniques of our own to whack them back.
I mean,
You
Vladimir
don't think we
Putin
do?
knows, Vladimir Putin
And
knows
you-
nothing about this. Just send us cash.
You assume we don't, eh, Tom? That's cute.
Oh
That is
no,
very-
I know we have them, but like, are we doing it against them right now? Are we?
Oh no, we send Wetworks teams on stuff like that.
That would be the way to go. Yeah, like something. Pay the iron price or
The SEALs are on the way. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's why I'm so surprised they would ever say, like, I'm this group, this is where I am. It seems like it'd be playing with fire. But hopefully they'll get the right people. But I mean, do you know how much they're asking for?
No,
I don't
don't.
think
It's past the top of the hour. So we're gonna have to tell everybody thank you. Thank you for joining us. Take
Thank you,
care.
everyone.
Have a
Bye
good
all.
day.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
And we'll figure out where your gasoline is at now.